So my agent put this little note on my outline. She's like, why are we talking about finishing your bookkeeping again when we already talked about doing your bookkeeping throughout the year? And that made me realize this thing that I don't think is clear enough, and I want to clarify for you today. It is the shockingly simple math of bookkeeping. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hi, beautifuls. Oh my gosh, it's been a minute. I just handed in the manuscript to my workbook, and as you probably know, I have not been recording new episodes for a little minute, so welcome back. Hello again. I'm so happy to be back here coming with a new podcast for you. So because I've been working on this workbook to help you with your taxes, specifically the mindset hurdles that can come up around your taxes and exercises to surface things about what's blocking you or your next steps, I wanted to talk to you about more of a mindset thing and one of the concepts that I talk about in the workbook today here on the podcast, just to give you a little taste of what's inside the workbook, but also just to help you through one confusing area. All right. So this is the scenario, right? Picture yourself at tax time and you in a world where you have put off bookkeeping for your freelance work all year, right? This happens, right? I'm not here to be judgy about this. This has happened to me. This used to be my life every year before I got religion, went back to school for accounting, right? This happened to me as an artist. I just didn't know. I didn't realize that bookkeeping was really a thing I needed to do every month as an artist. And what would happen is it would only be at tax time once I realized like, oh, all the expenses I paid for my art for the year, all the income I made for the art, I now have to go back and find all of that in bank statements retroactively before I can submit my tax return, right? That is what used to happen to me. And it was nightmarish because now you're going back to a year ago trying to remember things that have grown foggy over time, right? And it's easy in that scenario to forget a little bit of income, which, oh my gosh, you can't forget reporting income to the IRS, right? You're breaking the law. So you really don't want to do that. And then on the side that benefits you or me, you want to get every single deduction that you're entitled to. So that scenario, that high stress scenario of having all your bookkeeping for the whole year to be done all at once, it's awful. It's such a terrible feeling. And this thing that came up, and it can happen because you get busy, right? It can happen because your freelance work is such a small component of your overall financial picture, right? So if you're, for example, like I was, a working artist who also teaches or also has like a day job, you might be putting it off because it doesn't feel like your main gig, right? Or you might be putting it off because it is your main gig and your main gig is getting so busy, right? When you are a small business owner, when you have a small business and things start taking off, when your business starts really, at the beginning, there's just so many tasks to take care of and you get busy. You get really busy, okay? So I'm not here to judge, but this issue came up as I was writing my workbook. My agent was giving me some feedback on it because I wrote about bookkeeping twice, right? I was writing about setting up bookkeeping for the first time, doing bookkeeping ongoing during the year, and then I revisited it in the part about doing your taxes. I revisited that and talked about the need to finish your bookkeeping before you could submit your tax return, right? So my agent put this little note on my outline. She's like, why are we talking about finishing your bookkeeping again when we already talked about doing your bookkeeping throughout the year? And that made me realize this thing that I don't think is clear enough, and I want to clarify for you today. It is the shockingly simple math of bookkeeping. In fact, I want to draw a little drawing of it. So if you're watching the YouTube version of this podcast, you can see it as a visual. And it is, you have to do all of your bookkeeping for the year in order to know your numbers for taxes, right? So no matter what, under any circumstance, you need to know, you need to have that work done. And whatever work on it you do before tax time is work you spare yourself at tax time. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to pop in and tell you that my book, Taxes for Humans, Simplify Your Taxes and Change the World When You're Self-Employed, is available for the first time ever as a pre-order. Pre-orders are massively important to the success of this book, and I am so grateful and will send you gifts for your pre-order. If you're interested in getting this super empowering, super funny book, you can go to sunlighttax.com/book. All the details you need are there, and more details will be forthcoming. And thank you so much. I hope you enjoy Taxes for Humans. I've worked really hard to make it awesome for you, and your pre-order means the world to me. And the corollary is true as well. If you haven't done any of that work before tax time, you have to do all of it at tax time, right? And that's the part that's really painful and sucks. And if you are partnered filing taxes with somebody else, they're probably, and they're not also a freelancer like you, they are probably looking at their watch, angry at you. This certainly was my life. And so I just want to kind of make that direct subtraction feel really, really clear to you. So I'm going to draw it on my board. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see the visual, but I'll describe it if you're not. So if this is the whole year, right? Starting at January, going all the way to December, and all these months are happening, right? There's 12 months in there. Well, you have transactions happening the whole time, right? Every single time you spend money in your business or make income in your business, that is a transaction that's going to have to find a home eventually on your tax return. Right? Now, if it finds a home in your bookkeeping first, that's more organized and easier to look at and analyze and make decisions from, and it's a wonderful way to do it. So here is a little visual that I actually pulled straight from my workbook. This is a visual that will be in the workbook, but what we're looking at here is two contrasting funnels. One of them is the world where every single transaction you have is happening, but there's no buckets catching the transactions, right? This is the world where you've set up absolutely nothing. And please understand, I'm coming at this from a place not of perfection, but deep experience with doing it badly, right? So this was what my life looked like for many, many years before I got religion about it. I had no separate business bank account, which meant that I had personal transactions and business transactions coming out of the same account. So I didn't have a separation, meaning at tax time, I had to go back through my personal account and find all the business transactions, right? That was miserable. So that's represented by this giant pile underneath the funnel where it's a big mess and nothing is sorted. It's just a pile of transactions because the transactions don't wait until you're ready, right? They're happening the whole time, okay? That's the issue. So if you do that little bit of setup work, the easiest, simplest, most important piece of setup work being to open a separate business bank account for your transactions, we take away the personal transactions out of that big messy pile. So one thing that it does to open a separate business bank account is it makes it clear without you having to do any work what was a business expense and what was business income. This means you don't miss anything, okay? So that's a really big deal. Taking that one step, if you do nothing else, will help you at tax time. It will help you keep everything organized. Furthermore, setting up bookkeeping, even just a couple little expense categories, as I have illustrated in this illustration as buckets, what that helps with is it helps each transaction have a home, and that reduces work that otherwise you would be doing all in one panic attack moment right before the tax deadline. Okay. And just to give you another visual, if we just look at the whole year, right? And you have transactions happening every single day throughout the whole year, right? For your freelance work, some expenses happening, some income coming in, hopefully, right? Whatever work you do in the months before December, any work you do, this whole amount of work has to get done. Every expense has to get tracked and every bit of income has to get tracked, right? If you do anything, any bookkeeping at all, any sorting whatsoever before tax time, that's work you don't have to do at tax time. That's the equation, okay? So even if you've only done 3 months of bookkeeping and then you kind of let it all slide for the rest of the year, that's 3 months less of work that you have to do at tax time, okay? So whatever amount of work you do now is valuable. And the reason I'm coming to you now at this time of year is because we're at about the halfway point in the year, right? So this is an opportunity to take stock of where you are, to assess, and potentially to make some changes, okay? So one change that I would suggest, if you don't already have a business bank account for your freelance income for your small business, open a separate account and start taking the money out. When you pay your expenses, pay them out of that business bank account. When you make money from your business, from your freelance work, deposit that money into the business account. This alone will reduce a lot of your work at tax time, and you will be so grateful. If you want to take another step, you can download my free visual guide to tax deductions and start setting up those categories. So this visual guide, if you've been around Sunlight Tax for a while, you know about this. I have a visual guide. This is free and available on my website. Just go to sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. Or if you just go to sunlighttax.com, you'll see the deductions guide at the bottom of the scroll on the first page. And there's also a deductions guide link at the top. But you can get this rainbow colored, really beautiful visual guide to the deduction categories. And essentially, if you're just going to set up a little simple spreadsheet, you just take all of these categories and make those categories at the top, and then you're going to put the transactions into those buckets, okay? So this is not about anything complicated, not about anything that costs any money whatsoever. This is just about doing a little check-in right now, making sure you have a business bank account, making sure you have some basic expense categories set up for yourself in a spreadsheet. If you do that, you are going to be reducing work that would otherwise come at a panicky time next year, and you will be so grateful you've done that. So I hope that helps you just have a little mid-year check-in, have a little moment of feeling like, oh, okay, there's something I can do for myself that's going to really help me reduce my stress and feel more organized, all right? So I welcome you. I invite you in to do some of that work. And if you want that visual guide to tax deductions, there's 9 different versions for different types of creative career. I have one for fitness, wellness practitioners, therapists, one for designers, one for online business owners. So just pick the one that you like. That's at sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. And tell me how it goes. I'd love to hear from you. You can always drop me a line on Instagram at sunlighttax. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this really helped. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.